Namaste, my friends, and welcome to Circle of Wisdom. My name is Christopher Witecki, the Sensei to Serious Joy, and this is our weekly show where we're just going to gab about what's going on in the current events, bringing our Circle of Wisdom together in our posses. As always, introducing Master OneFeather. Hello, Master OneFeather. Welcome.
And how are you people? I'm doing quite nicely here in Chicago. We've got deluges of rain, which has been good.
Yeah, we have a very much a changing climate this week. And I'm also proud to bring on another Kristen Ryder, my soul sister. Hello, Kristen.
Hi, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing super well. You look fantastic. Kristen and I go way back centuries of reincarnation. Yes?
Several.
We'll talk about it.
Gazillion.
And Anne-Marie is here. Is your sound working, Anne? Hi.
Gotta get this.
Okay, you get it going. Oh, no worries, sweetie. But Anne-Marie is an old friend of Soul Garden and an Aquarius and up on all the alien activities. How's everyone doing this week? It's been a very powerful week, a weird week. I think the full moon in Pisces really knocked everyone out in one way or another. What were your experiences? Let's start with Christopher. You were saying, as a Pisces.
Well, yes, as a Pisces, you know, my natal sun is setting at 10 degrees Pisces, so I've got Neptune being dancing around there, and then Chiron is dancing around in Pisces also. So it was definitely quite an interesting process. I feel somewhat detached, and I think that's in part because my natal moon is in Aquarius, and so I tend to be able to just, you know, step back, step out of things, become the observer. But on a much deeper level, I have been enjoying a sense of inner peace. I think it's been very profound the way this particular full moon has operated, because it's been very gentle and very, very deep, and a lot of, you know, old things from the past that I'm not so much dwelling on, but just able to examine them without a lot of...
Any particular era in particular, like maybe the mid-'80s?
No, actually, it's going back...
Here, curious, yeah.
Yeah, it's going back to the 60s and
wow.
70s, but, you know, I think that right now... there is, for us here, there's been this wonderful rainstorm that came through. It started about 2 in the morning, and it continued right up until noon. And we had a nice gentle rain, very cleansing, but it came out of the south and west. And those westerly winds, when they're coming across from, you know, that great distance, by Native American imagery, we imagine that the voices of our ancestors, or the voices of those who have passed over, are being offered to us. And if we pay attention, we can hear things that have been, you know, from the past, old relationships, old friendships, old associations, things of that sort. And we kind of get a sense of what they would like to have us know. Were they able to be with us right now in physical form? So there was kind of this wind bringing voices from the past.
And it's to be from the west, literally. So when the winds change from the west, which is like a Mary Poppins token too, your ancestors are talking?
Well, yeah, the West Thunder, the western region, the western horizon is where the ancestors have gone. That's where they dwell, with western thunders.
And that's interesting that the ancestors dwell in the future, because the west is where the sun sets, you know. So.
Well, yeah, but the day that they were on the planet is over. The sun has receded over the western horizon and taken.
I see. Interesting. And Kristen, were you visited by ancestors of the past?
Well, I definitely feel like. Oh, I'm sorry.
Too many Chris's in a pot. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of Christ consciousness.
No, but this is Christ consciousness. That's why I think it's funny. We're all happy to hang out. Yeah. So,
well,
Kristen, what was?
Speaking of ancestors, yeah,
what was
Christ
your
consciousness, big. You know, it's interesting because, you know, OneFeather, what you're bringing, I'm just going to call him OneFeather for
Yeah, go
simplicity's
ahead. Yeah,
sake.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
I was reading a full moon blog. I think Julie posted it on Facebook, and she separated where the full moon is in your house. And you know,
Oh,
Jake, my partner, is a Cancer rising, so a lot of our moon things, and brother, you're Leo rising, so we're
yes.
very close. So it
And
was
you're
like an eighth house,
you're
which is
Leo too, right?
ancestry.
Just for the
I'm
world.
a Leo rising, yeah.
Yes.
I'm a
Sharing with the
Taurus Leo rising,
we,
Aries moon.
which is why we are brother and sister.
That's right, and we
At
both
least
have
that's
Mars in Pisces, where this,
yes.
which was actually in the ninth house, higher education for me, and I've been contemplating this for a while, but really recommitting to my healing practice. I just purchased a brand new sound healing bowl set in
Mm.
June, and I've been working with them all summer. And it's been, wow, they are so powerful. So for me, I had lunch with a girlfriend who's a Pisces. That was amazing. And it was very intuitive. And she's an old friend. I've reconnected with you, brother. You're one of my
Yes.
ancestors.
That's true.
And
That's true. That's true.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm getting a sound healing certification at the Open Center in Manhattan. So I went to one of their free seminars on Monday evening to begin additional education for myself to expand my practice and really get some scientific terms to confirm what I intuitively have always felt with the bowls and my voice and singing. So it was huge for me, and it was an emotional thing because I'm, you know, contemplating the performing aspect of myself and focusing on integrating her versus giving her a timeout because I'm a big healer now. You know, it's like,
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, just to mirror you, for one, I want to say, Krista and I we were roommates for a while, right? And went through a huge period, and we both came into we're both light workers. We both have Mars and Pisces, so we both are driven by that Christian thing. And I have seen you evolve over the last 10 years into this sound healer. You were and are a professional singer, but you discovered what you discovered. Tell us, how did you transition into sound healing, and what is exactly sound healing for people who don't know?
okay, well, oh my God, that was such a process. When I first stopped musical theater, started yoga, that was what started my whole spiritual journey.
Mm,
Then I went and studied with, I was like, well, let's figure this out. So then I went to Peru, studied with shamans there, moved to
mm,
LA, taught kids yoga, studied with priestesses in goddess circles in LA, went to
right.
Malta to really begin that earth and tuning in work, started studying astrology when I met you, brother, was already reading tarot cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to visit a sister friend, her name's Cher in Sedona.
Mm.
And she had one of these crystal singing bowls. And I had purchased my own bowl before, but I was kind of closeted about it. And I was like, ooh, can I play with your bowls? And as soon as I tone with them, I know, it's like, can I play with your
If
bowls?
I had a nickel for every time. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, totally. But
Uh,
when I did that and I sang with it, she and my other friend that was with me sat down and she was like, you need to share this with people. And I was very humbled, and I really respect her advice and guidance and opinion. And that's when I did my sound healing CD called Beyond Illusion.
yes.
And there's on my YouTube page, you can see a 12-week class that teaches people. Basically, there's a specific note that goes with each chakra and a color.
Okay.
Christopher, you were even on one of my shows that I did of that back in 2010.
I went to one.
Yeah, yeah. And so basically, I mean, this is how I put it in a nutshell.
The sound
Yes.
literally hits you. I mean, like, so it's literally you listen to it and you are put into something.
It totally is so true. And this new set that I have that's specifically designed for my sound signature, voice, and purpose, you know, I bring all my crazy Manhattan friends out for a barbecue, and I was like, all right, I'll play these things for you guys now. And you want to see the Manhattan mind totally stop. And people that are atheists even came into the room and were just tears coming down their eyes because the power of the music and the bowls is so tremendous. Like, it just makes you stop.
So listen in private.
Yeah. Well,
you might wear yourself.
I foresee a chakra show coming.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I'll bring that to the West Village in Manhattan in the next year or so. So lots
Oh,
of
that's
fun
cool.
things birthing for me.
That's very cool. And actually, I've talked to people who've listened to Kristen's CD in private and begun healing their chakras. The thing is, it's such a private experience.
It's intense.
Healing your chakras. It's so weird and out there in the sense that like there's not literature. People don't talk about it. But I worked specifically on my root for like 2 years without your CD. So to have it trigger, anything, I can understand. To just listen and trigger.
Yeah.
And so now you say the new CD you're doing, the new music you're doing now, you're calibrating it for your voice specifically. That's how you are continuing to evolve it and change it.
Well, I'm evolving it in the sense that I've never had my own set of bowls. So these
Oh,
are,
really? You work with other people's?
Like I have an entire set, 8 for the 8 chakras, and I'll probably evolve into the 12 for the zodiac set because of my astrology.
Yeah.
But this is what I want to start with now, and starting with my practice. And I want to get some other information using tuning forks and drums that I've known about, but just getting a more scientific background through my education for sound healing at the Open Center. So,
interesting. Yeah. Master OneFeather, you go back with music a long time and tribal music and whatnot. What is your experience with music, vibration, and healing, sir?
Well, I think music is definitely a powerful catalyst for release. I know with me, my most profound experiences generally happen when I am listening to opera. For some reason, live operatic performance will literally turn me into a blithering idiot. I mean, I just
really,
I just kind of lose it. And it always is surprising because it's not so much the story that is occurring in the opera, but it is the combination of elements of music and the voice and the various instruments that actually have a profound effect on the deeper part of the soul. So within that, it all lines up in a very logical process, because whenever we encounter any kind of resonance or any kind of a note being struck, it creates a resonance within us. And that empathy, that resonant process releases memories more often than not, and it also releases misconceptions and misunderstandings. And a lot of times we have beliefs about events that have occurred in the past that are really not realistic. It's skewed from the various angles that our ego and other people's egos have placed on it. And we carry these charges, these blockages, because we haven't been able to look at these events, look at these experiences in an impersonal way. Our ego is always entrenched in the actual occurrence. So when we have this sonic experience, it triggers something deep within us so that we are actually able to release emotional charges around past events that have held us back in our current journey. So that's why Kristen's work is so very much a part of this present era, because a lot of us are ready to let go of these things that have kept us anchored in these old paradigms.
I would agree with all that. I think, I actually just started putting out, Kristen, remember way back in the day when I started in the Zodiac, you would do a song prescription?
Totally, and I saw your Genesis thing. I was like, holla!
Well, because Kristen's voice, by the way, is the chakra voice. If you guys don't know, she does the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and in Namaste Today. That's Kristen's voice. She's always been helping me out since the beginning. But I firmly, for myself, sanity comes from music. Honestly, I would have given up a long time ago, I think, on myself and the world if it wasn't for music. Specifically, the iPhone only innovated that so that it could be in my back pocket, and I was so grateful. And in that sense, that music was brought so much closer to me. But literally, like you said, Master OneFeather, for me, and understanding sound, certain sounds will pull me out of a certain funk, will allow me to forgive parts of my life. And I completely identify with what you say. I think when you're hurt in history and you mull over it and you mull over it and you mull over it in your consciousness for whatever reason, either to prevent it from happening again, or you're mulling over it because you're still angry or whatever, every time you mull over it, you do twist it. You do make it not what it was. You do distort that original vibration, and it becomes this fragmented vibration inside of us. And I agree, like music just purges through that and lifts us up again. So I believe personally that the angels, the angelic realm, is very much close to music. And from what I've seen psychically with powerful musicians, it seems, just looking at them in my third eye kind of view, that they're downloading harmonies and frequencies that they put out into music. So I can see all this working. Kristen, how does someone approach healing and music? I mean, if you just play at all the tracks and clean out your pipes?
Well, because I wanted to introduce this medicinally to mass media and most of humanity, when I did it in 2010, I was like, how can I make this in layman's terms so people will understand this? And I colored each track with each chakra, because people typically don't understand what a chakra is unless they're in yoga or starting on their spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So I did it red, orange, yellow, green, violet, and then a song came in at the end called We Are, saying, we're the ones that we've been waiting for. We need to change everything now.
Oh, yeah.
And not wait for anybody else, because we are the ones. So so it depends on, you may be, because everyone's intuition works differently. People that are aware of conscious, need to shift a chakra, then you can abide by the colors. Like red is for the root chakra, yellow the third chakra, blue the fifth, and green for the heart. So you can use that medicinally to vibrationally shift whichever chakra you wish specifically. But a lot of times people that aren't open or conscious of the exact chakra color, things do come to people in colors. Or maybe you have a dream where you have this specific color that was, very prevalent throughout your dreams. Like, that color is calling you, that note, that vibration is calling you to bring in some kind of wholeness or fulfillment. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use the music to get it out. And even if people practice yoga or want to take a bath, I recommend they listen to the CD during those times. And brother, I don't know if you remember the root chakra, but she's like an ancient native woman, calling stuff. And when I recorded it, I had no idea that was going to come out. And the entire CD, we meditated and prayed in each chakra. And the things, it's like it starts very primal, very native, and then gets to that angelic aspect.
Or orgasmic, actually.
Yeah.
It's a little orgasmic, her CD. You really should be in private. And actually I was thinking, I think I knew you're vibrationally too, it's like you're my sister, so I think I couldn't get you in the root chakra. I think it was just too weird. Because you hit that note. But I was in public. I've experienced your voice, so.
Oh my gosh, I was in Soul Garden the first day you put that thing in, because Carolyn, I think, was with us, and it shut Soul Garden down. You were like, get it out of the system. I was like, well, she's already purging something.
That's funny. Yeah, we were on a string. We've always been on a shoestring budget in that regard. So it was definitely bringing things down. And by the way, people, I'll put into this video description how you can get in touch with Kristen and her CD and give it a try. It's really worth it. And speaking of things changing, this is a good point of changing this topic. One is that Master OneFeather, last week we were talking about where things are going vibrationally and what is the new reality. And I've been actually thinking about what is the new reality this entire week. It's because the sun's in Virgo, and for me as a Taurus, it's about my inner child. I don't know about you, sister, but I've been doing a lot of trying to figure out what is my heart, having to figure out what my heart is really in. What is my heart really in the most again? And I think with Jupiter and Leo, you were talking about, coming out with your new persona. And I'm like, with Jupiter and Leo, our rising sign is, our ego is reinventing itself. But as I ask myself what I want to do between this Jupiter Leo and the next Jupiter Leo, what's my heart really in? because 12 years ago is when I came up with Soul Garden and trying to come out with spirituality, and been doing it nearly for that time. It took a while to set up. Now, as I look at the Earth, and this is what I want to throw it out to the circle of wisdom here, everyone join in. It's like I see us doing the same old crap once again. And I see us being kind of like not paying. And I see, at least the American public being very complacent, or at least publicly not talking about it or whatever. But it seems that we're entering in kind of a bit of a Cold War again with the Soviet Union. They're invading the Ukraine very quietly. We're allegedly coming down on them, but we're also doing another, round two, the sequel to terrorism, I guess, and now it's ISIS, and now it's going to be Syria that we have the excuse to invade. So vibrationally, where I came this last week, Master OneFeather, with thinking all about this was, and this is really the question, is like, is there not evil on the earth? Is there evil? And if there is, should we be concerned about it at this time? I bring it up because we're now our wisest. It's the turning point to the age of Aquarius, and the more I study World War II, like see all these documentaries coming out, the more I believe we had a problem with pure evil taking over the earth, or at least one country. Does this concern anyone on the panel that this could happen again, or should we just stay? This is the question. Or should we just focus on our light and not pay attention? That's my question to the group. Master One?
Well, number one, you're never going to find an occasion when we don't have the duality. Duality is the thing that propels this process that we are, experiencing. It is the nature of the material universe. And
yes.
So, one of the things, you go back in history and you look at when they're discussing a landslide election, and it's like 54 points is considered a landslide. Yeah, that's a very narrow window in reality. And if you really look at the way elections work in this country, you have the country basically is divided 50-50. And generally an election will be won by a candidate who has an extra 400,000 votes on the presidential level. And you'll see this everywhere in the world. There's always this back and forth struggle between positive, negative, good, bad, right, wrong. And we go through sensitive cycles where ultimately we're called upon to examine our contribution to the duality. And so I don't think there's going to be this everybody wakes up one morning and we're all enlightened, bada bing, bada boom. That's just not going to happen. But I think we're approaching it in steps. So the pendulum's going to swing not only this 12-year cycle, but probably for the next 50 12-year cycles. But with each swing, more and more individuals will be able to step out of their investment in duality and start to experience that unified state of consciousness. And
okay, I totally concur, but that would require that we all join a cult somewhere, because in the current world, no one is.
It's you go back to the 100th monkey thing again. When you have a certain number of people that actually gain an insight, it suddenly appears in the minds of a vast majority of people. And so it's, we always think we have to rally. We have to run out and stand on a street corner and hold a sign or beat a drum or do all this. If you can just get yourself to your own highest plateau in this lifetime, you're not realizing how much impact that has on the population as a whole.
That's probably true.
The change is not going to come from creating an argument, and that's all you're going to have is an argument as soon as you say, well, those guys over there are all screwed up and they're wrong and we're right. Then you just set World War III into motion.
Well, what about World War II, Master OneFeather? I mean, that's what I'm studying. People stood around, and it was coming out that the that people were massacring Jews in the tens of thousands of every day. Now, do I stand in my light and be brighter? That's my concern, though, is I see the same darkness making a play for another mass conflict. I see the same parties that want to live off of war doing it again. And as a person who's conscious and aware in this life, I'm going, what do I do? What do I say? Should we speak up? Or do we just let the human race go through this duality thing and wipe out another 50 or 60 million this next time? Because it might be that with everything that I see kind of adding up, you know. And so for me as a person, you know, it's like I hear what you're saying, but at what point are we supposed to interfere or?
Well,
you know?
again, though, the human experience is such that we don't take action until the hammer of doom is like 3 inches from our forehead. That's just how humans react.
Our choice.
We like to find a rock and crawl under it and ignore things, and that's always going to be the circumstances. When you really get a mass rally like we saw back in the 60s, when the Vietnam War was amping up, it had an impression that was indelible, that has lasted, you know, right up until today. But it took how many wars before that before people started saying, oh, this is wrong, we don't want war anymore.
Yeah, but you guys are still alive, and you're letting it happen. And you're the biggest voting voice, too. You're the baby boomers. So the baby boomers are not putting their foot down. I'm not seeing them put my foot down. That's
how you know, again, how can you rally people when every group that you encounter is going to reflect that same divided consciousness? You go into a group of veterans of foreign wars and try to rally them against another war and see what happens. See, there's always going to be an element within society that wants the bad, and there's going to be an element in society that wants the good. What is good or bad? Who knows? You know, because
I think
you're talking about World War II, the Holocaust. Well, the Native American people have had a 300-year-long Holocaust. See, and because of the subtlety, because of the innuendo, because of the just the erosion of the native spirit, the native lifestyle, the native bloodlines, we have seen, you know, this diminishing of the pure Native American identity.
And that's okay. That we just accept that duality, that every now and then a race is going to get erased.
It is okay, because if you are stuck in that idea of I'm an Indian and you're not, and so screw you, I'm better than you are, then you're missing the whole point. We've got to pull all these elements together. There's got to, at some point, be a unified recognition that we are one planet. We are not all these races. We are not all these nations. We are not all these ethnic groups. We are, in fact, one species on a planet floating around the universe, and until we arrive at that realization, we're just, you know, pounding the same old drum over and over again.
I don't disagree. So you're saying turn your head until people realize. Well, Krista, what do you think?
No.
I don't know. I have like a gazillion. I had to take notes. I'm like, okay, let's touch on that.
I think we're debating good versus evil here. I mean, bring it back to the conversation. It's like there is duality and people are exercising evil. My point is, like, to me, it looks like we're going down another evil path in several ways with these wars and whatnot.
That, you know,
so what is the response? How do we do? What is our response? And for me, as a light worker, what is my response? Do I get involved or do I not get involved? That's the question.
And this is, you know, it's interesting because, you know, when I would drive Jake to work or whatever, my boyfriend, then, you know, we're listening to NPR and we're listening to everything that's going on, and he gets so upset. He's got Saturn and Mars in Scorpio.
And Mars is in Scorpio too.
You know, it's natural for him to go to the doomsday and go to that and want to do that. And it's, you know, and he's like, well, what do we do? Because he's got the same question. Do we sit and watch it just happen, or do we do this? And, you know, and this is where I'm like, okay, as a light worker, can I be in, you know, Israel and see with my eyes what's really going on right there? Can I see what ISIS is up to? Can I see what's going on in Africa? Can I actually be there physically and contribute my light that way? No. I can't.
Right, of course.
So in what Christopher OneFeather was saying, we need to shift the critical mass, right? Once the critical mass of light has shifted to such a point of consciousness, there's no turning back. So what I foresee, what I see all of this as is, in universal law, nobody gets out for free. There has to be some kind of addressment of miscreations that humanity has done. And nobody gets out of this for free because we've all messed up sometime. So in that sense, taking responsibility as this massive purging of the miscreations are coming up like a big fat zit, we're detoxing, then what I can do and contribute and take as a light worker, my responsibility is to maintain that high vibration and focusing on getting that critical mass to shift.
So it's like so your approach is like Dalai Lama. Just be like, someone's got to keep the light on.
Keep sending love. Keep praying for them.
I think it goes. I think it goes much deeper, Christopher. The way that you keep moving the idea is going into a totally passive state, and in reality, non-action is not a passive state. Non-action is a state of consciousness and conscious transformation that you are implementing. And the most powerful part of that journey, the most powerful part of that tool that we have as light workers or as spiritually enlightened people is the act of forgiveness. If we can look at a situation and from the core of our being express forgiveness, then that helps to heal the wound.
But no one's responsible. I understand. I've been forgiving. Haven't you? Haven't you been forgiving even Master Obama? I've been very forgiving of Obama. I'm not forgiving anymore. I'm feeling like being too forgiving is not it's not working, it seems, either.
Well, if you go back and look at the Master, Jesus, one of the apostles approached Jesus and said, "How many times must I forgive my neighbor for his transgression? Seven times?" And Jesus said 7 times 7. And then again, in other words, he's saying that the only way forgiveness works is if it transcends the material experience and moves into the eternal condition.
On a mass scale.
Well, no, but
on
again,
a mass scale. Well,
it's contagious.
Okay, but I'm going to bring it back to Taurus practical reality. My country looks like it's coming up with an excuse to go back to war with someone else. I'm wondering, with Pluto and Capricorn, which is when we had the last American Revolution, or the only American Revolution, this is where we're back again. I'm sitting here wondering, just from an astrological perspective, what's the wisdom here? Is the wisdom that we fix and evolve this system? Is the wisdom, like maybe you suggest, we go off and create a new America? There's a couple of there's some real estate out there still left. Maybe the Pluto and Capricorn is about going and showing people how it can be. But for me as a person, I'm really at this, because I'm a person that has a hard time. I'm not a person that can sit still when I see bad things happen. Or I have to leave. I can't look at it. For me, that's where I'm caught. Maybe that's my ego, but I don't know. Anne, do you have an opinion?
Is my sound on?
It is, dear.
Oh, okay. Well, first I'd like to say I'm not an alien. I'm just from the future, which is like being an alien on planet Earth.
You can frame it 1,000 ways, but I'm with you, sister. That was a compliment that you're an alien. But you are from the future. I love it.
I'm
That's
following,
the Aquarian, yeah.
I think you all have a little bit of it.
Everyone, yeah.
Obviously, Master OneFeather has the core of it, because as you know, the hologram situation and it being a reflection, and as you taught me over and over, it's what's inside that's being projected and reflected outside. So certainly, we create a peaceful state. We have to find the peacefulness within ourselves, which can be very difficult.
It's very difficult.
In the middle of it all.
It's very difficult. It's the hardest thing I think on earth to find that inner peace. I really do. I mean, it's not easy. But so you're saying, go ahead. So it comes down to us focusing on peace. Yeah.
Well, focusing on the peace within us, the divinity within us, and knowing that, one, we live forever. So as Master OneFeather has said numerous times, if I walk out the door and get hit by a car, I'm coming back. So to let go of that insecurity and that fear of death, and that it's all, and judging it as being negative or positive, because the judging is what's projecting the evil. And the thing about the evil, it's necessary. Because we're in duality. Because we're in duality, we can't have the light without the dark. The darkness defines the light. When the child is in the womb, the cells sloughing off is what actually forms the fetus. Their cells are dying constantly. We eat everything. Everything is, the vampirism that he talks about, where energy is always consuming other energy. And what's happening on the planet is actually a good thing, because it's going to create a shift. If everything stayed at a certain point where it was tolerable, it would never change. We need things to escalate. We need it, as she said, hit critical mass to shift. And part of that is the death, the destruction, because that's what's going to force everybody, as Master OneFeather said, to that 29th degree, where we're going to finally make a choice, and there is going to be a separation. And without this all happening, we could never get to the shift. We were brew a little here, brew a little here, the cauldron would bubble and bubble and bubble randomly, but never really shift to the next level. And just, I think we're in a fracture. If you look at the Mandelbrot fractures, things are starting to break up because we're shifting. There's fissures and fractures. The Earth's shifting. You just had an earthquake at 6 degrees, didn't you, in California? It also happened like 3 or 4 other places on the planet simultaneously. Everything is going to start to disintegrate. It's breaking up, and it's a good thing.
Okay, I don't just.
Okay,
so we sit by and we watch. You're saying we sit by and we
no,
observe. We observe.
The light.
Let it fall apart.
We hold the light.
So
we hold the space. Hold the space.
Hmm.
We hold the space. That's what you always say that. Don't you say is what we be is what comes. You have to hold the space for what you want.
I don't disagree. But every now and then society goes too far. Society goes too far.
But what you focus on is what you create. Wherever you put your energy in, your thoughts, your feelings, you create. So if we go to war on drugs, if we go to war on cancer, if we go to war on terrorism, we're actually feeding that energy and making it bigger. And
it
we're
looks
focusing on it.
I hear you, but it looks like we are going to war, and kids will die. And kids will die. Your kids will die. And OneFeather's kids will die. And it will happen again where people die. And so as light workers, we're just going to meditate and hold the light, huh?
Yeah, but, Christopher, stop and think about it. You're going to die anyway. Everybody's going to die.
Well, so fuck it. Let's go to the Bahamas and have sex.
Well,
why are we even bothering? Why did we come down? What have we done since Atlantis? Anything?
In the entire scope of human history, have we ever resolved a war by fighting a war? Have we ever resolved a conflict by creating more conflict?
No, but our brothers and sisters are doing it again, anyways. That's my point.
Right, and we have to have enough respect for them to stand back and say, okay, if that is the journey that you need in order to get to the place, in order to get to the place where you can actually recognize what the hell you're doing, then I'll give you the space to do that.
What I like to say, Christopher, is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to hold the space. We've gone ahead because we're the leaders. When it's all over and the rubble, the dust settles, we're there to bring everybody through. We're there to help them, assist them, to carry them through, and to teach them and to guide them to the next level. We're more like the EMTs that come after the scene. It's gotta happen, and then we're gonna be the people that carry them through and reseed the earth and start the next phase.
We just keep well, it sounds like we just keep going over and over the same old shit. So
No, brother. Knock it off.
sounds like we're going to.
You need a sound healing, brother. You need a sound healing.
This is a sound healing.
Anne-Marie, you're right. It's like that's where we'll become the way showers. And Christopher, I know you know way showers as well. But like bringing it to a vibrational thing, like, you know, just on a physical thing, like no same material object or thing can occupy the same vibration, right? So in this discussion, I've felt you get quite angry about, you know, the vibration of our brothers and sisters down here wanting to go to war, right?
Oh yeah.
But if we were to lower our vibration and combat them, then we are back down at the same vibration and no longer holding that shift as way showers for people to ascend to. So literally, they will knock out each other's vibrations and be reincarnated, or, you know, however that's going to work out for their karma. But, you know, like we as light workers are not choosing to get into that battle, but we are indeed, as Anne-Marie said, holding that space. Like, this is your potential. You know, and I don't think the time to wait for the shift to happen and waiting for people to wake up is going on, because on Earth, her resources are, that's what all this war and shit is about. Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. I mean,
yeah, but it's like, that's where it goes to. What is this all about? It's about resources, because people think there's not enough, because they're not sharing and caring, blah, 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 because they're vibrationally down here.
There's plenty. They want ridiculous power and abundance and control. There's plenty of resources. We all know that, and I understand. Well, I don't necessarily suggest going down to their level. And by the way, my frustration and anger is, as I wake up to my multi-lifetime existence, I'm asking myself, why am I here again? Why? Like, no, hold on, I'll answer. Go ahead, but why? Like, to hold the light? Okay, if that's the case, if I'm going to hold the light, well, then I know how it works vibrationally. I'm heading down to the Bahamas. Or somewhere warm. There's no need for me to participate. As long as I'm a battery holding that light, we're good.
But you are participating by doing this show, by doing Soul Garden, by putting all of that information out. That is your work. That is your responsibility. That is how you're holding the vibration up here.
Sure.
Do you need to go down to the Bahamas to, like, reignite that light? Sometimes, and that's okay. You know, come back with
No. I'm saying
you're
that
the lead monkey.
No.
You're the lead monkey.
No, and that's not it. I mean, it doesn't matter. The monkeys don't care.
You are the head monkey.
To me, as a human being who tries to learn from, I'm just a person that wants to learn from my own mistakes, and I feel like humanity is so much more intelligent than this. I feel like more of humanity is intelligent than non-intelligent. I think that the non-intelligent part of humanity has hijacked the few resources and buttons out there that control things, and I'm sitting here going, you know, as a wise soul, what was Albert Einstein thinking? As Albert Einstein saw everything happening. You know what he did? He left. He saw what was happening and took off and tried to do what he could, because he saw that his culture was going down the tubes very early. Very early. So I kind of feel that way. I see a lot of really bad things lining up for the way I've been educated, my own spirituality, what my psychic guides are telling me, where I'm being told to go for my own safety on Earth, from my own guides, and my only question is, like, what should we do? And do we sit back and let the Nazis go ahead and organize, kill 50 million people, let them learn from their mistakes? I mean, this is still in our modern consciousness. The other interesting thing, too, I just want to bring up is that in my work with people and personal readings, these soldiers, the Hitler's soldiers and the Russian soldiers, the soldiers that died in World War II and died horribly, they're now incarnating. They're now incarnating as my friends' children. These kids are having nightmares. They're dealing with their very awakened past life memory, where they pretty much got screwed in and considered as empty flesh vessels anyways. Everyone just threw more men at the problem, World War I and World War II. And talking about generations of souls who haven't healed, in the incarnation, and they're coming back. So the question is like, again, should we do something or go meditate in the Bahamas?
Well, they're coming back to heal.
Correct.
They're coming back to heal.
And
But
that's
are
their
we-
responsibility and their karma.
But they're becoming our kids, and they still want to fight. And so my question is like, I'm not, as me, I mean, I'm taking care of my kid. I have a kid. He's got his past life issues. I'm helping him with them. I got my past life issues. I'm not looking at it that way. I'm just saying, do we, as a person who has influence or whatever, how much do you try? Do you try to make a difference? Or is the light worker thing to sit back, meditate like Dalai Lama, let these kids learn the hard way again?
No, be a teacher. Do what you've been doing. Do exactly what you've been doing. Show people to find the joy in their heart. Joy is the highest vibration. It's the closest you can get to enlightenment.
I will always be preaching that because, to the day I
And
die,
keep preaching
even
it. Keep
in
preaching
Jamaica.
it.
It doesn't mean, though, however, I would argue, I'm just going to say for the record, there will be another constitutional convention. I've looked at the American Constitution. I've looked at the astrology coming up. I'll put on the table right now. It's going down. It's going to have a very, very big hiccup and a hard time. There will probably be another meeting somewhere. That's my point. And so, again, at that time, will I be in Jamaica? I don't know.
There's going to be a Buddha swap. Remember you told us about the Buddha swap? It's going to hit critical mass, and then there's going to be a Buddha swap.
Well, I don't know what the Buddha swap is, or you're talking about in a class, but I think that which is Pluto and Capricorn, society is in our lifetime going to have another major discussion about what control is, and I think that the United States will probably lead that discussion by the nature of its position of where it is, But there's droid planes flying over now, if you disagree. It's starting to get that way.
We could be going through, if something happens with our magnetic field, there could be like a time warp. It's a memory loss. There's like a hiccup, like a break, a skip. And a lot of these people that are searching for power, the elite that rule the world, the matrix, they themselves actually could be affected by this.
Oh,
where
sure.
They'll just like...
Right. That's just like the people, yeah, that's just like in the zombie films. The ones who created the zombie virus end up getting killed by the zombies, too. I know. Like, the idiots that cause the problem do always get hurt also. That doesn't change it, though.
But you've never had a thing where all of a sudden it clicks and you're like, oh my God.
Is that how it's going to happen?
I got it wrong. I've had it wrong. It could.
What about evil? Do we believe in evil? Is there Satan? Yes or no?
No. Satan, like you said, is in the mind. The mind creates it.
I don't know. I disagree. I think there is actually conscious evil, conscious organized evil. I've met it. What about you, Master OneFeather? Have you been in front of evil? I mean, like actual, where you felt like the person was interested in the destruction of life?
Number one, I did in fact serve in Vietnam, so I have had actual experience in war situations.
God. Okay.
But at the same time, when I was doing service, I was also very much aware of the journey of my ancestors who were at war with this prevailing government that they are now very invested in and pledge allegiance to. But in the midst of all of this, ultimately, anything that divides us does not serve us, and any level of nationalism is a demarcation line. I'm over here, you're over there, I've got mine, you've got yours, get the hell away from me. That, I would say, is probably evil. The divisionism, the desire to separate, the desire to keep us apart from each other, the desire to make sure that the white girl doesn't marry the black guy because they don't want the little in-between babies. All of that kind of consciousness is the actual outpicturing of evil. And evil, when you really stop and look at the core of it, it has no power because it is working on the premise of separation.
That's true.
And it tries to divide us. It tries to separate us.
That's true. It does need us for its power. It needs us, yes.
Right.
It's the word lie backwards.
But people don't know that, and there's a lot of mind games involved, and the devil has crazy tricks.
But I think ultimately we all know this. I think that this is a game we're playing with ourselves. I mean, we're in a position where we could take the red pill or the green pill or whatever pill you want and come into full awareness of what is actually going on here.
I think you're ascending right now, Master OneFeather.
Yeah, I do this periodically here. Actually, it's the UFO that's landing out there, so my friends from Alpha Centauri are stopping by.
Goodbye, let us know, let us know.
But again, that idea, though, of you and me sitting here having a conversation is really silly because there's only one of us here, even though we are manifesting in infinite form, infinite fashion.
But if you kill my kid, I don't forgive.
Well, yeah, but that's, again, your ego is very much involved.
Oh, well, no, my heart.
I mean, just listen to what you said. My kid, you've taken possession. You have ownership. See?
So I guess
but
the
what
thing
about
is
the
like
neighbor's kid?
That detachment to me, where it's, I see what you're saying and I see the truth of that, Master OneFeather, but isn't that same detachment the excuse that certain Germans turned their head that the Nazis were killing millions of Jews? I mean, if you sit there and go, well, that's just it. I mean, there's going to be this darkness where we kill off a bottom.
The entire upper echelon of the Vatican turned their head. They were very much aware of what was going on.
I know. They actually, that was very dark. Yes, they made a play for their own country at the time and made a deal with Mussolini. I mean, it was very, brilliant stroke, really, politically for them. But I agree.
You know, again, this is a history of separation and division. And I want my space, you can have your space, get the hell away from me. When we can all sit, shoulder to shoulder and enjoy the comfort of just that contact, then we'll actually be on the journey out of the mess that we've created.
Okay, so again, it's Jamaica, shoulder to shoulder. I'm with you. Or somewhere warm. So I think we just have to create a new colony where people are kind to each other and hope that it lasts, I guess.
No.
Well, or maybe the whole process is for us to become the colony and to go out into the world and rub shoulders with everybody we come in contact with.
To raise their vibration.
Okay.
As we're rubbing them.
I will be.
I do that with people at the checkout of Trader Joe's. I
did too.
What is your life? What are you doing? How is your day? That's right. I'm talking.
I know.
And it's like, hey, knock it off. You're doing fine. Keep it up.
No, that's true. No, I think we're always that way. That's definitely the truth. Well, this has all been very good conversation, y'all. I wanted to bring up a couple other topics, but I think this is a good ending point. Next week,
Joan Rivers is dead.
Joan Rivers is dead. I didn't even know she was dead, but we were talking about Joan Rivers, and I guess we can close on that. I do let her reincarnate in peace, but boy, she never loved herself, and I think that she's a good example of what can happen if you don't love yourself. You run yourself ragged, and it is the source of a lot of her comedy. But I think that she probably died trying to have some sort of plastic surgery thing, and ended up getting her. So to me, Jupiter in Leo is about loving yourself, and seeing her pass she was just a Gemini that did not love herself. Anyone want to add to that?
Well, she was stuck in her own duality and couldn't find the unity consciousness. She was always at odds with herself. I have a lot of my gay friends love her to pieces because she's so and I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting because they haven't been allowed to have that unity consciousness growing up, and it's like, that's shifting. It's all shifting, and I was never a big fan of Joan Rivers. She always made my inner child shut down and not want to do anything. But I did watch a closing video of how she was with Melissa, and no makeup and no this, and I was like, all right, she had the vulnerable side in her, and even though, despite herself and all of her self non-love, let's call it that, she did the best she could, and I think that's something that's huge. We're all doing the best we can. Whether people that know they're bad or whatever, when you're messing around. Come on, really?
Right.
So, there's a lot to be said for that.
She didn't have any water in her chart either. There was nothing. She had no planets in water. So So the emotional thing was an issue with her. And also, I think she's a reflection of mass consciousness. We created the monster. She fed into it. She fed into it. And she grew and grew and grew. She didn't start out like that. I watched a clip of her in the very beginning with Johnny Carson. She was totally different. You can see how she evolved over the years to keep herself going, and she fed into what the public wanted. People wanted that. She got the attention.
Well, first she screwed over Johnny Carson. She screwed him over. And if you know the whole story, she was having, and so after she screwed him over and he turned his back on her, she started becoming pretty dark, and then her husband committed suicide.
Yeah.
And it kept getting darker and darker. But but knowing her story and knowing Johnny Carson's story, Johnny was a Scorpio, so there's like black and white.
Was.
Once you screw him over. But long story short, she made that choice. Is my point.
Listen, Joan Rivers is us, me, and you. She's part of us. She's not somebody different.
I hear ya.
Part of her lives within me and OneFeather and you, and you know what I mean. This is we need to. She is the evil in ourselves that we need to forgive.
I think she was evil to herself. I think she was mean to herself, is what it is. I'm with her. That's fine. You're right. But let's not forget, folks.
We have to accept her as part of our shadow. That's our shadow.
That's fine. But I incarnated down as Chris Witecki, not Joan Rivers. I'll become one with her ass when I go back to Creator. But right now, I'm Chris Witecki, and this is the end of this show. We'll see you folks next week. All right, thank you so much. We'll have another fascinating conversation. If you want to join the conversation, come down to tweettalk.tv. We always post the link in our chat room there, and we welcome you to come on just like Ann and Kristen has. Thank you, Kristen, for coming.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Master OneFeather. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Thanks, Easter Bunny.
Have a beautiful journey as we advance toward this next new moon now.
Indeed. New moon. Ooh, it's going to be fun. We'll have more on that in 7 days. Thanks, everyone. Love you. Live, love, be.